Hey, what's up guys? Eric with Eric Harris Photography here. We're going to take a look at something that I've encountered quite a bit over the few years of shooting family portraits. This happens more often with larger groups such as multiple families coming together. Sometimes you get it with siblings even, maybe the older sister, older brother isn't really feeling the photo shoot, but either way, we've all snapped photos where someone is just a little bit too far out of the grouping, and it just gives it a little bit of an awkward feel. I want to show you my process for taking care of that today. What I'm going to be using is the latest update of Photoshop. So first things we're going to do, we're going to open up our image and we're going to take a look. I usually do something like this before I really get into any adjustments, unless for some reason my photo is super dark and I have to use it or something like that. But I'm going to jump into this right away and make sure that I can make this process work. In many cases, what I'm going to start with is just a simple subject selection. Photoshop has this right in there, super easy to use. What I'm going to do after that is isolate the group or person that I want by just detracting the selection that's unnecessary. In this case, we're going for just the 3 people that are off to the left. Now with just this selected grouping that we have, we are going to right click on that and hit layer via cut. And what this is going to do is going to put those subjects onto a separate layer that you can turn off and then later on move. Now there's a couple different ways to handle this part here. What we can do is select we can select the empty space. I typically use the magic wand with the color selection in there, and that makes it easy just to grab everything, assuming it's not super complex. I mean, you can see this one here is a little bit more of a detailed cut. We're going to use generative fill in this case to add everything back in there. As we all are familiar with, generative fill is not going to be super perfect every time. In this case, it adds a couple plants or like a table or something. What we're going to do is flatten everything, making sure that the cut layer is off so that way it doesn't get flattened with it. And we're going to run yet another generative fill. And that's going to remove the weird artifacts that sometimes are produced using AI. The manual way would be using your clone and healing stamp tool, in this case, to go through it. If we had a solid background or at least something a little more a little less detailed than what we have here, then we would simply use a content aware fill, and most of the time that'll take care of it, and then maybe clone stamping over top of it a little bit. So now that we're at the point where we need to put our subjects in there and move them, we're going to unhide the layer, and then clicking V on your keyboard or the transform, we're going to slide the layer over to the point where it looks a little more natural. Sometimes you can overlap a little bit, sometimes we need to go behind depending on where they are relative to the other subjects. But in this case, we're going to slide it over and we're going to make the 2 girls' arms overlap just a tiny bit. This will give it a little bit more of a less static feel and allow them to look like they actually belong closer together. What I like to do is go in, look at the feet, see where they are proportionate to each other, and see which one makes sense. In this case, putting the layer that we cut a little bit in front of a subject kind of makes sense. Now we can stop there, but I'm personally a little bit of a stickler on shadows. So here you can see that we are opening up a curves adjustment, and we're going to pull down the exposure to match similar to where the shadows are in the people that were originally in the photo that were not cut out. I'm a little bit of a stickler on this. It feels like if we don't do this, then they kind of look like they're floating and shadows don't really match. Shadows are a big part of images, whether they're soft or hard. So what we're going to do is create this mask of curves and invert the mask. And what that's going to do is now remove it completely from the image. We are going to hit that subject selection tool again because we do not want to put shadows on our subjects. We want to put them underneath and behind our subjects. So we click the subject detection tool, and then we are going to invert that selection. So we are selecting everything else besides the people in the image. So now what we can do is go into the brush tool. We're going to pull down the flow just a little bit, maybe down to 50, 60. You can play with this a few times. And and just simply brush around their feet. Now today we had a cloudy day, so our shadows are quite diffused, which makes it super easy to do this. If they were hard shadows, we'd be in for a little bit more work. Now that we're happy with our shadows, what I'm going to do is just save this, and it's going to go right into our Lightroom. Everything saves as a DNG file, at least in my setup, and I can go through now and straighten the photo out. I can adjust some exposure settings, mess with my highlight shadows, and some clarity and texture. Now don't forget to give this video a like if you found it helpful. If you guys have suggestions for other tutorials in Photoshop, please let me know. I'm happy to go over any of them. If you liked the video, please don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you on the next one.